Good morning, good morning. It is, when is it? It's Wednesday, isn't it? It's half term. I'm losing my track of time here. It is Wednesday, the 29th of May, 2024. Welcome to Morning Brew with me, Graham Hughes, on Labour Social. Big shout out to all the socialites in the chat. How you doing? Hope you're enjoying a nice hot cup of tea or coffee or whatever tickles your fancy this morning. We've got Maureen in the chat. We've got Lucy Willis. We've got Captain Bart Roberts is in there, obviously. We've got Dave W. We've got Jup James. We've got Brian Ferguson, Duke Vengeance. We've got Jane Lockwood. We've got Gallifreyan Ray. Reagan Elise. Hi, Reagan. How you doing? Really good to see you. Puninator. Has anyone seen Chris Bryant on Sky with James Daly about the Rayner case being cleared? No, but I would like to watch that. I would very much like to watch that. Yes. Should Daly be prosecuted for wasting police time? I've actually put that into the description of this video. So let's just get the show on the road, shall we? The facts on the table. Angela Rayner sold her council house, which is something that the Tories seem to want everyone to do. The reason why the Tories wanted people to do this is because they needed house prices to continue to rise until the end of time. The only way they could achieve that is by manufactured scarcity, i.e. making something rare that doesn't need to be rare. Really good example of this is diamonds. Diamonds are not rare. Diamonds are not rare at all. De Beers, the company, bought every diamond mine in the world and then hid away loads of diamonds. Why? Because if they allowed everyone to buy all the diamonds they wanted, the price of those diamonds would go through the floor. You'll be able to buy a diamond ring for about 50 quid. Not 500, not 5,000, not 50,000, not 100. Do you see what I mean? Like, what they do is they lock them away in vaults in Switzerland, in Amsterdam, and it makes sure that the price stays high because they are rare. They're not really rare, but we've made them rare. The same thing they've done with houses. So we have council houses that people could buy after the 1980s because of Thatcher. She came in and said, you should be able to buy your council house, which on its surface seems like a great idea. Aspirational, allowing people to actually, make... get on the housing ladder, which we couldn't do before 1980s if you weren't on a particular pay scale. Okay, I get that. But what the Tories did, and what the Tories did on purpose, was make sure that it was nigh on impossible to build any new houses after that. And so we had this period, especially since 2010, in which Sweet FA number of houses have been built, and as a result, you have an entire generation who have their houses. They're quite happy with their houses. That's great. We've got a house. Wonderful. And then you've got an entire generation now of the older people, and then the younger people, it looks like they are not going to be able to ever get on the housing ladder because there's no houses. There being no houses means that the price of houses goes up and up and up and keeps going up. You imagine if Labour build 1 million houses a year, what's going to happen to people's house prices? They're not going to go down necessarily, but they're not going to go up and up and up forever, which is what people who own houses want their house to do. They think that they are Jordan Belfort. They think they are the Wolf of Wall Street because they have bought a house for £2.50 in 1963, and now it's worth $500,000. Woo, look at me. Aren't I great at these stocks and shares tomfoolery? And it's like, no. This has been set up by the Tories to make you vote Tory forever and to screw over the young people. And this comes in on the whole, the Tories screwing the young. I mean, the Tories really hate young people. Not only have they said they're going to deny votes to 16 and 17-year-olds, they're also talking about bringing back national service. They're also saying that pensioners shouldn't have to pay any tax on their pensions, which will save pensioners on average about 28 pence a week. Woo! Meanwhile, that extra cost, that extra burden is going to be on younger working people who are going to have to work even harder for less money because of the Tories. But the war on young people is basically at the line that the Tories are going for in the hope that young people aren't going to vote in this election. I think they might be a little bit surprised. Bit of good news at the weekend though, or not the weekend, the other day, is that the Labour, it was yesterday actually, Labour are now ahead of the Tories in every single age range, including the over 65s. So I'll take back everything I said about the over 65s. You're all right. Well, the ones who are going to vote for Labour are anyway. Johnny Copperhead says, but James Daly's forehead, says Johnny Copperfield. Sorry, Copperfield? What? Sorry, Johnny, got your name wrong there. Johnny Copperhead. Thank you very much. Oh, my animation has stuck. It's just there. It's just stuck on the now it's disappeared. Oh, now the intro animation's come back on. That's not good. Oh, there we go. Look. There we go. Brilliant. Anyway, back to Angela Rayner's council house. So she sold her house. So a private buyer got a house, which used to be a council house. Used to be owned by the council to put people who are on low incomes into. And now it's someone who could only afford the high income to afford a house who gets to live in the house. Manufactured scarcity. Brilliant. Anyway, so she did that because it's the way most people of her age sort of get on the housing ladder. Apparently that was a really bad thing. She shouldn't have done that because she was also hanging around at her future husband's house a bit too much. Future husband's house. I mean, so the police spent hundreds of thousands of pounds investigating this. Greater Manchester Police, at the behest of James Daly, the man with the largest forehead since the Mekons, the T-File man, the aliens from Mars Attacks. Anyway, he decided that he had to go to the police and report Angela Rayner for doing this vague crime that he could not adequately describe what she'd actually done wrong on television when tackled about it by Chris Bryant. Anyway, so I think that he should be done for wasting police time, especially as it costs hundreds of thousands of pounds to investigate this non-crime. But also, it's not as though the police are doing a particularly good job at the moment. Less than 1% of burglaries get investigated properly. And less than 1% of sexual assaults end in a criminal conviction. The stats are horrifying. What the Tories have done over the last 14 years is essentially decriminalise crime. Because certain crimes, you pretty much get away with it, especially fraud. Rishi Sunak famously writing off nearly £10 billion of fraud. That's gone. It's gone. The Tories who still whine to this day about Gordon Brown selling gold or gold reserves, some of our gold reserves, not all of our gold reserves, some of our gold reserves, off at too low a price. We use that money to actually do stuff. It was invested in the country. This 10 billion that Rishi Sunak's lost has gone nowhere. It's just gone into the pockets of criminals. But they're not really criminals because fraud's been taken off the list of crimes to make it look like crime is down under the Tories when it's not. Anyway, I wish they'll make up their mind as well. Tories going, knife crime is out of control. So yeah, you're the party in charge. You are literally the party in charge. Craig, I'll give them their due. The issue with paying tax on the pension isn't the tax. It's the admin for the tiny amount of tax, of course. It was the Tories who keep the bands the same. Indeed, gold isn't rare either. The higher the price, the more viable, expensive, difficult mining becomes. Well, yeah, I mean, with gold, the problem was and always will be, if you don't have a gold mine in your country, good luck on setting the price of gold. It's not set by you. It's set by South Africa, Papua New Guinea, places with gold mines where they can get more gold and go, yeah, I've got more gold, yay! We'll flood the system with gold. And back in the day, gold made sense. Silver tarnishes, gold is an element, so it always weighs the same for the amount, the amount of volume it takes up, as Archimedes famously discovered when he shouted "Eureka" and jumped out the bath. It's all to do with the fact that gold would displace the same amount of water every time, no matter what shape it was. So you could tell if it was real gold or if it was mixed with an alloy. Fun fact, most gold is mixed with an alloy because Otherwise, it's very, very soft. If you push your thumb onto real gold, it will leave a thumbprint. So they do actually mix it with other metals. Anyway, moving on. This is very interesting. Talk about metallurgy. I don't know what the word is. Andrew Fisher. Fun fact, thank you. I lived in my property for 19 years and could have bought it twice and had an extra left over at the amount of rent I pay, given how much the house was bought for in 2005. Yeah. And Anthony, there's a lot of people in your position, and it's disgraceful. Your landlord's making money out of you to buy another house, and then he'll put someone else, or she'll put someone else in that house, and they'll pay the mortgage for that house. Because that's working. That's working. Being a landlord, buying a house, having the money to buy a house, and then put someone in it, and that person has to maintain that house. That's their job. It's a bit like the night manager or the night watchman or woman at a museum. Keep an eye on everything. Make sure nothing gets robbed. If something goes wrong, let me know. Just keep an eye on the place. Are you going to pay me to be your night watch person? No. Can you also make sure that the heating comes on in the winter so the pipes don't freeze? Can you also make sure the windows are open each day so it doesn't get any mold? Can you also make sure that it doesn't get that sort of dank smell that you get in a house that's been abandoned for a year? Yeah, I'll do all that. How much are you paying me? Nothing. In fact, you're going to pay me, the landlord. What? How? That's a job. I'm literally doing something for you. I'm house sitting for you as your house accrues in value. Yeah, but it's the Tory way. You've got to pay me. I hate landlords. And the whole system is absolutely bonkers. We've got to take a step back and go, hang on, what? So I look after your property and pay you for the privilege, yeah? And then you use my money to pay off the mortgage that you got on the property, yeah? So then you own more property, yeah? And I don't own anything. I'm giving you all my rent that I could be spending on my own property, but no, I've got to pay it to you so you can pay off your second, third, fourth, fifth, seventh mortgage on your different houses. I own 50 houses. That's working. So you got a management company in, a property management company in to do anything in the house, yeah? So what is it that you actually do? I don't know, but it's working because I'm making loads of money. I'm making an insane amount of money doing this job. It's not a job. Landlords, like posh people, were absolutely derided in the 1970s and 80s. It looked like they were on the way out. Like everyone had their say on landlords, and it wasn't pretty. And then somehow the Tories rehabilitated the image of landlords, because anyone could be a landlord. Well, if you were born in the 1940s. Yeah. Anyway, Captain Bart Robert, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. The Tories seem to have been intent on tearing down the government behind them. Now it seems to extend to their own party. Thoughts, guys? The Tories are doing an absolute number. Thanks for the super chat there. Doing an absolute number on themselves, which is funny. Anyway, I've probably pissed off some landlords in the chat, so let's have a look at who have annoyed. Sarah, I love how Tories claim to have the answer to problems they cause and expect people to fall for it. Good point, well made. What's the story about Diane Abbott, whip restored but not allowed to run on the Labour ticket? Yeah, this is the second half of my front cover for this video. Diane Abbott has been readmitted into the Labour Party as a Labour MP. Sorry, I don't think she was ever thrown out of the party, but she was suspended as a Labour MP pending an independent investigation, which took far too long. It took like a year, over a year. Come on, but it did get there in the end, and she was essentially let back in to the Labour Party. However, she has been told that she won't be allowed to stand as an MP for Labour in this election. And I'll come to that in a moment. But first of all, oh my God, Ivan Ambrose, thank you so much for the £100 super chat. That is outrageously awesome. I've got to make a new animation for when someone gives this much money. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Seriously, thank you. I'm going to read your message in a moment, but just want to say thank you. That is so kind. That is so generous. That is amazing. Ivan, thank you. The subject of house prices is so divisive. I'm not saying all long-term established homeowners, but so many have an I'm all right, Jack attitude. They forget they had to start off once upon a time. It annoys me so much when falls in house prices are viewed as a bad thing. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And thank you again for that amazing super chat, mate. That is so kind. Yeah, it is eternally frustrating, but you can see why the Tories have done this, because they know their demographic. I mean, look, Rishi Sunak was playing bowls, lawn green bowls yesterday. I mean, he knows his demographic. They're talking about bringing in military service for young people, bringing in this national service so they learn to kill. They're going to teach all 18-year-olds how to kill, or they'll go to jail. And here's the mad thing. No one born after 1939 had to do national service. So unless you are 85 years or over, right now, you have not done national service. And so you have the absolute, over 95% of the voting population has not done national service and therefore doesn't know what it's like. And it was the generation that fought in the war that got rid of national service for many reasons, not just a moral reason, but also because it was costing too much. Quite simply, you're taking young lads out of the work pool, so they're not working, they're not paying tax, and we're giving them room and board for a year, paid for by the state. Bit like universal basic income, really, but without the productivity, because they couldn't do another job that actually made money. Don't forget, defence, generally speaking, it's a black hole. It's money that you burn as a country to defend yourself. And don't forget, an army costs a lot of money. And also, all the things that you buy for the army, like guns and tanks and weapons and aeroplanes and missile launchers and things, they all depreciate over time. Not depreciate in value necessarily, but they you've got to have a certain level of maintenance to keep them going. That's why we've got such old kit in the army. You'll be surprised at how much stuff has just been kind of bodged together over the years. Not bodged together, that's a bad way of putting it, but we're still using a lot of kit from a very, very long time ago, put it that way, because renewing that kit costs a lot of money. And yeah, and also then you've got things that don't just depreciate, but the iron law of entropy, but you're firing them to stop to what's it called, to train, your bullets, missiles, rockets, things like that. You don't get them back. You can't sell them. You can't pick them up at the end of it and go, I'll sell this for scrap metal. Yeah, and all that ammunition, that all just goes. It's just a black hole. It's just. And then you've obviously got the wages, and you've got the food, accommodation, all that kind of stuff that you've got to pay for. And it's something that every country has to spend money on. Unfortunately, I wish we didn't. I wish we just all got along, and there wasn't such thing as Russia that wants to quite like to invade. I don't know, London, and make sure that everyone stops being gay, as Russia would like people to do. And yeah, so I understand why we need one, but I understand also that it's a lot of money to be spending. And when you're talking about national service for 1 year to teach skills to young people, it's like there's a much more efficient way of doing that, which isn't to put them into a barracks and make them get up at 6 a.m. to go on a march around the town, or whatever it's going to be. The Dad's Army for teenagers is the way it's been billed. I mean, come on. But yeah, it's what the Tories have been coming up with has been very much, if you are in a position where you own your own house, and you're getting on, none of this stuff is going to affect you, that we're going to do, but it will be sadistically horrible to the young people who we hate. You hate young people as well. Those bloody young people being all young and free and getting to do what they want. Let's stop them. Let's bring in Brexit so they can't go and live and work anywhere in Europe unless they were born rich. Daddy's got a yacht. I can live and work anywhere in Europe. God, I hate them. Right, moving on. Puninator. Don't people realise, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Don't people realise that home ownership is a key factor in people turning conservative in their old age? They are cutting off their potential future voters. It is in a way, but it isn't. I mean, I do think that Labour, one of the things that Labour need to do when it hits the ground, first 100 days, they're talking about having a shortened summer recess, and actually having, getting back into government, get back into Parliament. government. They will be back in government, hopefully, 6 weeks. But bringing back Parliament so they can actually start the legislative agenda. They haven't ruled out having a summer budget as well. I haven't talked about Diane Abbott, but I will in a moment. Anthony Fisher says, the problem with my landlord doesn't do a thing. The property management team are useless, so I'm left trying to fix things myself. I can't move due to health, and I got a memorial garden out back. I'm sorry, mate. Like, Anthony, you are exactly the kind of person that the Tories just seem to want to torture, just seem to want to, like, take it out on and take all your money off you and give you nothing in return. Because the Tory philosophy is haves and have-nots. And if those have-nots dare even consider becoming a have, that upsets them. Because when you're used to privilege, say it with me, equality feels like oppression. Metallurgy, says Roger ages ago. Yes, that was what I was trying to say. Duke says everything's struggling. Meanwhile, the Tories here, Rwanda, have £500 million for absolutely nothing. Yeah, there you go. David Welsh saying one F-35 costs around 100 million quid. Yeah. Defending your country is not cheap. But yeah, I was going to say about like this idea that we're going to trade people up for a year and then they're going to go back to civil life. How is that a good use of the military budget? We need more soldiers. We need more airmen. We need and women. We need more sailors. We need more we need 21st century tech. We need drones. We need things that can actually make... And they're spending money on nonsense. Kenneth Williams and Carry On Sergeant and Charlie Sheen in Platoon both made cases against national service and conscription. They did indeed. I'm not a fan of Diane Abbott, but respect her career rise. What I don't understand is why the inquiry ended in December and why no one mentioned the anti-Semitism course that she was meant to do. I don't know, Nick. Let's talk about Diane Abbott for a moment. I think that she was the first black woman MP in British history. I think that she has had a very storied career. However, in the last few years, I don't think that she's been... how can I put this? Right, I still think she's cracking MP, and I still respect her, and I get all that. But I also have this little voice in my ear. It sounds a lot like Phil Morehouse, which says that if you are part of the Labour Party, your job is to get the Labour Party into power. That is it. That is your one job. And then after that, we can discuss policy, we can discuss everything else you need to do, but your one job in opposition is to get Labour into power. And if there was a feeling that Diane Abbott was undermining the leadership, as some people who were fans of the previous leader of the opposition have done, I don't know the details. Don't get me, I'm not libeling anyone. I'm not slandering anyone. I'm just saying that maybe things have been said that were taken the wrong way or whatever by the people in charge of Labour, and they didn't feel like that Diane Abbott was, let's say, an electoral asset. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible here. I'm trying to see it from both sides. Diane Abbott would say, well, I was always a Labour MP. I was a good Labour MP. Labour is my party. And you sometimes, I don't think she said this, but there's sometimes an attitude of that I haven't changed, my party's changed, or I haven't left my party left me. And I don't know if that's the case with Diane Abbott. She hasn't really spoken out about this very much, so I don't know the ins and outs. You might be able to tell me in the chat. I'll just have a look at it now, in case anyone's trying to put me right. Jupp says, no, Graham, an F-35 could be much cheaper, but the MIC operates like any other big business. They grow their profits for shareholder value. More manufactured scarcity. Phil is so logical and pragmatic. Suffering with allergies, but apart from that, I'm all good, says Sean. Good. Make sure you get some antihistamines. Although, to be honest, if the Tories win the next 5 years, you might not be able to get your antihistamine medicine. You might have to get yourself some hookworms. They release natural antihistamine. It's my fun fact. I love telling people that. Hospitality, etc., are already struggling for workers, many of which are under 21. National service would increase that problem. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and they say, oh no, it's all right. The ones who don't go into the army are going to have to volunteer. for a weekend. And it's like most young people work at the weekends. I made this point the other day. I'll say Abbott will be a far bigger pain for Starmer outside the tent than inside it, says Christopher. Well, she'll still be a member of the Labour Party. She just won't be an MP. She should have had a last speech in Parliament, says Frank. I agree. I absolutely agree with that, mate. Yes. Frank Puni says, it was Napoleon who said, give me 1,000 professional soldiers over 10,000 conscripts, or words to that effect. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get a bunch of teenagers who don't want to be there. And like, you've got to just wonder like how much of a good idea it would be to teach a bunch of teenagers how to kill. And I said it on the show on Monday. I don't think I think there's a few factors in it. Lead in the water, the boomers, not all boomers, but as a proportion of their population, of their cohort, more boomers were serial killers than any other generation before or since. Just saying. There was a big spike in the 1980s, but yeah, maybe that was the lot who were taught how to kill. Maybe they had the national service and they knew. Don't forget Oswald, the guy who killed Lee Harvey Oswald, the guy who killed JFK. He was army, wasn't he? Yeah, that's where he learned how to be such a sharpshooter. Came in handy one day, didn't it? When he wanted to change the world. Gary Flame Wren said, and Voltaire said, God is not on the side of the biggest armies, but the best shots. Love a bit of Voltaire. Duke Vengeance Abbott, like Corbyn, had their chance and they failed miserably, and her repeated gaffes are annoying. Well, you know, like the way that the right-wing press just jump on and seize on things like when Diane Abbott made some mistakes with her mathematics, but don't do the same thing to the Tories doing exactly the same thing when they get their figures wrong, when they mess up, is appalling. It's absolutely appalling. But this is why we need press reform. The fact that just going back to Angela Rayner for a moment, I mentioned Dan Hodges in the thumbnail. Dan Hodges, for the last 40 odd days, has been doing a diary of like on Twitter saying day 32, Angela Rayner still hasn't released her information to HMRC. Day 37, Angela Rayner, and he's done this every day for like over 40 days for an investigation that went nowhere. And again, it is just like when Keir Starmer had a beer and they were like, oh my God, he's had a beer in lockdown. Ah! Meanwhile, the Labour Party, the Tory party were having parties every other weekend by the looks of things all the way through COVID. There's 19 parties, I think, that we know of. That's in number 10. There was one in the offices for the Labour for the Tory mayoral guy, Sean Bailey. He had a party, didn't he? And yeah, I'm sure there were countless others because the Tories believe that, you know, one rule for them, one rule for the rest of us. I hope we're getting rid, very much so. I hope they get crushed. Abbott let the cat out of the bag when she described Corbyn as a Brexiteer at heart. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think she was wrong on that. I think a lot of us don't think she was wrong. Feckle Puny said, may I just say, we seem to be a well-read and knowledgeable bunch on this channel. Yes, Feckle Puny, quoting Napoleon and Voltaire. Wonderful stuff. Adrian Wyatt says, it would be right to deselect Diane Abbott because she's too much of a loose cannon. All other parties had to be extremely disciplined to overcome overwhelming pro-Tory press bias. Adrian, what can I say, mate? I agree. I agree. I can see why they've done it. I'm glad that she's been readmitted as an MP to give her what they've called a soft landing. And yeah, I'm hoping that'll do. That'll do for now, and we can close the book on this chapter. There's someone insulting in the chat. Can you stop insulting people? Whoever's that. Abbott is a Cupid stunt. Tox, don't insult. Let's have a discussion here. I don't really have a problem with Diane Abbott as a person. I think she's all right. You know, we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, as they said at the end of Some Like It Hot. Anyway, here's the papers. Right, there's no little me today. Sorry about that. But yeah, here are the papers, the paper review. Should we say? PM, axe to fall on university rip-off degrees. Again, this is nonsense from the Tories about how universities' degrees are rip-offs, which are, you know, anything that's not high-skilled, which is funny coming from a bunch of Tories who all did PPE, which I don't think is a particular skill, but politics, philosophy and economics. As a politics graduate myself, yeah, all right, mate, whatever. Stormzy, The King and Me, that's Mayor Jammer there from Love Art. I don't know. Anyway, and then the Mirror there with Tory nonsense exposed, cops drop Rayner probe, house sale claims are binned in yet another blow for Sunak. And then we've got Sunak on the front cover of the Telegraph here, sticking one finger up. Oh, no, he's got two fingers up, saying, Sunak, I'm talking to Johnson about the election. Yeah, that's going to work. We've got Tory vow to ban rip-off university degrees by changing law. Again, that's the Mail mirroring the Express, as always. They're two ranted tabloids. The Guardian's running with Israeli spy chief threatened ICC official over war crimes inquiry, which is really a serious allegation there being made. And also they've got a story there about the scenes in Rafah where, I mean, I don't know if you can see very well on the screen there, but it's just refugees in what looks like a tip. They look like they are in an actual council dump. It's horrific what's being done to them. Absolutely horrific. Times here, Sunak University cut to boost apprentices. Apprentices. Sunak's plans here. Again, this is another awful idea by the Tories that they are they're gonna make everything better by basically making everything worse. The Labour wanted to bring in, make it 50% of young people going to university. The Tories want to roll that back because they hate young people. Also, J.K. Rowling is there, why I decided to be a massive bigot, if you want to read that. iNewspaper, there we've got Triple Lock Plus to save retirees 28p a week, which isn't enough to buy a can of beans these days. And then something about slugs and Alan Titchmarsh. Locking horns, this is the battle over pensions between Rachel Reeves there and Rishi Sunak. And Ofwat, this is on the Financial Times, Ofwat sketches out recovery regime to avoid nationalising water groups. But you know as well as I do, as soon as Labour in power, we're going to be looking at full nationalisation of the of the waterways because it's a monopoly, and we tried privatisation and it didn't work, and it's incredibly what's the word for it, unpatriotic. I think it's unpatriotic. Some people just don't learn. Paleontology better not be on the list, says one angry pagan. Yeah, indeed. I mean, look, I don't really see there being useless degrees. You used to get these stories all the time about someone doing a degree in Klingon. And it's like, no, they don't. I mean, maybe if they're doing the PhD on fictional languages, they might study Klingon and Tolkien's languages. Cylindral, is it? The one of the elves' languages? I can't remember now. God, I'm so old. I can't remember those things I read a long time ago. But yeah, maybe. But there's no actual academic degree in Klingon. Like, it was just nonsense made up by the right-wing press, as a lot of the right-wing press is nonsense. Universities were closed because of national service. What students will be able to afford to live when 1 in 4 weekends they can't work to support themselves. That plus foreign student restrictions. Well, Christopher, you say that. However, I'll tell you who will be all right. The children of the rich. Everything the Tories ever do is like this. We are going to do something punitive. We're going to do something sadistic to young people, right? We're going to pick on them, right? Unless they're rich. And then those rules won't apply to them. And the biggest one, that for my money, is the fact that if you are rich, you can live and work anywhere in the EU. You can afford the visas, you can afford the fees, you can afford having £28,000 in your bank account, whatever it is that you need to get citizenship or residencia in that country. You can afford it, you've got loads of money. The rest of us can't. We used to have that right to go and live and work in any other country in Europe, in the EU, for free. Nothing. We didn't have to ask anyone's permission. We didn't have to fill out a form. We just turned up. We could go there tomorrow. And that right has been taken away by the rich because they hated Nigel Farage and Britain Trump, what's his name, Boris Johnson. They hated the idea that they were on the same level as you and I. They hate the idea that cheap flights exist because they don't want the hoi polloi flying. That should be exclusively for the upper echelons of society. They hate us. That's who. When Farage goes on about how much he hates Muslims, he hates immigrants, he hates all these different groups. Actually, what he really hates is us, the people who aren't rich. That's who he can't stand. Now, I'm trying to get rich, as we all are. So thank you very much to Johnny Cophead for helping me on my way with the super chat there. Thank you very much. Lee Harvey Oswald was in the US Marine Corps. His training record shows his marksmanship was unsatisfactory. Just saying. Hashtag Ted Cruz dad. And then George, we're not starting conspiracies here on the channel. Johnny Cophead. 60-year-old conspiracies. Sorry about my sulk when you missed my super chat yesterday. Thanks very much, George. No, it was that it didn't come up as a super chat. It just said you've been a member for X many months, but it didn't say. It just came up differently on my screen, and that's why I missed it. But thank you for pointing it out, because if I ever do miss a super chat, I do like it when people point it out. Right. Gosh, caught you, says Leanne Scott. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm going in a minute. Freckle Puny, I remember seeing a news report on the Russian war in Chechnya. A woman was crying about her son being conscripted into the Russian army, pleading he cannot go and fight. He's too fat. Yeah. Mike Higgins says, check mail, French energy, German railways, Canadian pension fund water. Welcome to Great Britain. I'm actually, Mike, I'm gonna copy that because that is beautiful. Can I use that as a tweet? I'm gonna make a tweet about that after the show. I'm sure Czech billionaire really cares about the workers, their union, and pensions, and delivering a great service to the UK. Not Nick and Diff. Channeling Wayne's World there. And then we got Clownheart saying, Russia sent soldiers to the front line with no weapons, told to pick up the weapons of the dead. Tories will do the same. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, God, nothing's changed. Nothing has changed in over 100 years since the Toffs, the officers, would point over the no man's land and all the barbed wire in the minefield and say, boys, run out over there. But at least 100 years ago, the officers will go over the top with their men. Now, the officers would sit there on their arses reading the Daily Mail while sending everyone else to get turned into mincemeat by the machine guns of the other side. No problem, going. Thanks, mate. I really like that. That was really, really good. Okay. Politics Anne says, what upsets me is my mum passed away. I'm so sorry. With COVID in the care home, she wasn't looked after and they did not follow the guidelines. Politics channel. I'm really, really sorry to hear that. That is tremendously that is tremendously upsetting, and the Tories should be nailed to the wall over that, because it was their decision to put people with COVID into care homes. They decided to do that, and we need to not let them forget. Just before I go, because I've gone 9 minutes over, and there's another super chat. But before I go, me and Paul Somerville, previously of our FOC, and he was one of our three blokes in the pub on occasion. We're working on a project at the moment, and we're having a debate over the name. The idea is that we're going to target Tory voters to put them off voting Tory. So this is going into groups online, social media groups online, that are populated by people in particular constituencies that we're going to target on purpose to say, here's some terrible things the Tories have done. I want to call it crushthetories.com, and Paul wants to call it endthetories.com. And I'll tell you why I want to call it crush, because crush is a great word. You can really roll the R, say crush the Tories. It sounds great in any accent, whereas end, I don't think it's got the same power. I know that it means, you know, the finality of the Tory party, because that's the idea. We don't just want to beat the Tories in the election, we want the Tory party destroyed. But I have a problem with the regional accents saying end, because in different parts of the country, it might be an and the Tories, on the Tories, in the Tories, depending on your accent. So, that's my saying it. Let me know what you think in the chat quickly before we go. End the Tories or crush the Tories. We've got both, by the way. We've got both URLs, so it doesn't really matter that much, but I like to get the nomenclature correct. David Welsh, thank you very much for the €5 super chat. That's really kind of you. How much did Liz Truss's useful degree cost the UK? That's about, what was it, £50 billion, was it, that she wiped off? She wiped off 425 billion from pension funds in this country. Unbelievable. Crush says Vendetta. Anthony Fisher says Crush. Gillian says Crush. Johnny Copperhead says Crush. Peter, you're all on my side on this. I don't want loyalty. I just say we've got endthetories.com and we've got crushthetories.com. I'm seeing like the website with sort of a bit punk rock, black, white, bright pink and yellow, bright yellow, kind of just little motifs on it. Not so it hurts your eyes or anything, but just a bit sort of like, this is a subversive website. This is what we're planning to do, and sort of drill into that sort of Generation X punk rock attitude of let's smash the system, which I think sounds better than end the system. Crush. Everyone's saying crush. Oh, I could crush a grape. Crush. Ciao. Crush. Okay. I'm gonna screen cap this and send it to Paul. He's gonna be so pissed off. Who sang the song Crush? I don't know, Colin Baker, but REM sang Orange Crush, which is about the Vietnam War, going back to conscription. Anyway, crushing the Tories with the truth, with badges. Trouse the Tories. Crush. Well, I want to call it annihilate the Tories, but I had this problem with when I travelled to every country in the world without flying. It came up as I called it the Odyssey Expedition, and no one could spell it. No one could spell the word Odyssey, and no one could spell the word annihilate. I can't. So crush. Okay, has a nice ring to it, says Tinkinator. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to go now, and I've gone way over time, so you had a bit of a bumper show today, but there's no Prime Minister's questions today, so you're not going to see me later on. So Phil will be here in the morning. Can I ask everyone who's watching this to do me just a little favour, just reminding myself of it then when I said going to every country in the world. If you type into Google, who was the first person to go to every country in the world without flying, it comes up with someone who isn't me. If you could be so kind as to type that into Google and then go to feedback and say, this isn't true, this is Graham Hughes, link to my Wikipedia page, link to my Guinness World Record, which is all countries visited by surface transport, which is dated January 2013. Scheduled ground transport it is. So all countries, scheduled ground transport. Just type in Graham Hughes, Guinness World Record. It should come up on the Guinness World Record website. If you could link to that, that would be amazing if you've got time to do that today. If you don't worry about it. It's just something that irks me. It's a bit like, the one thing that I've done in my life that I'm particularly proud of that, someone seems to have taken away from me. So thank you very much if you can do that. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks to all the socialites in the chat. And Phil will be back at 9:30 tomorrow morning. And until then, I'll say, gives a like on the way out. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.